sometimes you just need that one moment of feeling good to make you realize that you are capable of feeling good.
Yeah, it's been a ton of fun, man. And I gotta say, I'm like so excited to talk to you, because don't think this is weird or anything, but I always have thought you were the British version of me because we have so much in common.
Yeah. yeah. There's it's surprising how many people from that kind of like tattoo and hardcore kind of punk rock kind of background there are in menswear.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, it's funny, man.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, I think so too. No, it was funny because when I found your profile, I was like, oh, I actually started following you a few years ago because of Jiu-Jitsu. And then like I transitioned to menswear, and then I was like, oh, you came up again for menswear. And it was cool, man. Like I was in a hardcore band for a long time. And then I also have a daughter, and it's just funny because I just see a ton of different parallels.
Brilliant. Yeah, but like it's funny, you mentioned jiu-jitsu, because for me in my own mental health, jiu-jitsu was like the one.
Yeah,
that was the thing. I'm sure everyone's had hard times.
Yeah,
throughout their life, but I had like a really rough time in my mid-20s with my own sort of mental health and well-being, and I was like very down for a very long period of time. And I actually have this tattoo of an anchor that has "Save Me" written on it, because in those times I feel that you hold on to all the things that keep you anchored down in that depression. So you isolate yourself, you don't go out, you don't hang out with your friends, you don't talk to people, you just kind of sit in a dark room and, I don't know, listen to depressing music. And, and jiu-jitsu was the thing that kind of really snapped me out of it. Whereas a friend of mine pretty much forced me to go. And,
same story with me.
But I honestly say that like every good thing in my life started with that first day of jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
So, so God bless the Gracie family.
Yes. Yep, that's great, man. Yeah, same thing happened with me. Like I had a really, really bad childhood. Just very neglected, no father or siblings. My mom was working 14-hour days, so I never saw her. So I pretty much just raised myself, and it was just very isolated. And it was tough, man. And one of the things that just really brought me out of it was I was at work one day, and I just went to the gym like everyone else. I lived by myself, just went to my job, came back, worked out, and just sat alone. And one time my boss was just like, hey man, we're going, like he was a big UFC guy and stuff like that. He like trained MMA. He's like, hey, we're going to my MMA gym today after work. And I was like, I'm okay. I'm just going to go lift some weights. He's like, no, we're going. And he just forced me into it. And I'll never forget that first punch that I threw. I was like, this is amazing. Like, what a cool feeling.
Like, for me, it was the moment that I choked someone unconscious, right? Which sounds terrible. But in my mind, I was like, if you can choke a man unconscious, you can achieve anything.
Yes.
And I've had a lot of like learning difficulties. I'm really dyslexic. So I had a lot of like reading and writing difficulties growing up. I didn't do very well in the education system. And I left education feeling like I was incapable of learning. And jiu-jitsu taught me that the biggest lesson jiu-jitsu gave me was that ability to learn. I was like, I've learned to choke a man unconscious. If I can learn to do that, I can learn to do other things. So that was like a real catalyst to like, both mentally, confidence-wise, and everything. That was a real catalyst for me moving forward.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. How long have you been training?
Far too long. about about 12 years. But out of that 12 years, there's probably like a good, I don't know, 6 of them injuries.
Yeah. Yep, I feel that. I remember my very first out of state competition that I did in jiu-jitsu. My very first match, I had driven 6 hours, just crammed in the car with all these guys. We finally get to this hotel. None of us slept like a wink. We wake up at like 6 a.m. We get to this competition to train. My very first competition, in the first 30 seconds, I like got ankle locked and he snapped my freaking shin.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So
my first competition, I walked in and there's this huge Eastern European guy. He is like, he literally looks like a villain from a film. You know, he's massive. He makes me look tiny. He's got a shaved head. He's like all muscle. And my coach turns to me and says, don't worry, mate. He's not in your division. And I was just like, oh, thank God for that. You know, like, that's fantastic. Anyway, you know, come up to get ready for my fight. And who's opposite me? This huge guy. So I turned to my coach, Chris, and I'm like, Chris, you told me you wasn't in my division. He said, I didn't want you to worry all day. Yeah, and yeah, that was.
What happened? Was it a bad loss or?
No, it was a decent tear up there. I'm game. I'm always game. When like you know, I might not win, but I'm always game. But I didn't win that particular one. You know, I don't think many people win their first jiu-jitsu match.
No, you know, I've only done 4 of them, and I haven't won one yet. So
yeah, I think Buchecha, who's like you know, multiple time world champion. I read an interview where he said he didn't win anything until purple belt.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, he said literally like lost nearly all his fights at like white and blue belt. It was only a purple belt where he started to like, you know, get it and look where he is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's amazing. I think he trains with my coach. My coach is a former UFC fighter. His name's Mike Ciez, or he has a really long last name.
Yeah, I know who he is though. Yeah. Oh
wow, nice. Yeah, that's he's training me here in the spring, so that's cool.
Amazing. Yeah. At the moment I'm like I train mostly with Mauricio Gomez, who's Roger Gracie's father.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my master.
That's awesome, man. Well, man, I really hope that business brings me out to London soon. Maybe we can hang out and grab some drinks and roll.
Without a doubt. Let's hope so. Let's hope we can all roll soon.
Yes. Well, yeah, our gym is just opening this week, so I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, there's no date for the UK yet, unfortunately. But,
man.
Fingers crossed it'll be soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool, man. Well, hey, can you tell me like what got you into menswear and like what started you on the menswear journey?
Like I've always been interested in clothing, you know, from a very young age. You know, and I'd ended up working in like a few vintage stores and, you know, in more kind of like streetwear-esque brands, like kind of in the 90s. And then I kind of took a little sabbatical from that to work in tattooing. So I had a supply company for tattoo shops, and then I ran like the business side of a tattoo shop that I was a co-owner of. And then kind of my wife and I decided we wanted to move to London, and it was like, well, what do I know? It's like, I know fighting, but I'm not really good enough to make any money out of it. You know, I'm not really, I don't think I could teach very well. I was like, I know clothing, and, I know music. And, it's very hard to make money in music these days because of downloading and whatnot, unless you're working on the road, which I didn't really want to do. So I was like, right, I'm going to try and get back into the menswear world. And I basically kind of hassled Drake's until they gave me a job, is the kind of the most honest way to describe it. And I'm very thankful that they ended up taking the chance on me. And yes, just kind of like worked my way up. Started on the bottom of the ladder, just as like a junior sales assistant, and which was like a huge drop in wages and everything from what I'd been doing previously. But I was just so happy being there. Like, I was the happiest I'd been in ages. And then just worked my way up, and now I'm manager of the Savile Row store.
Man, that's so cool.
Yeah, it makes my mum very proud.
Yeah, that's so cool. I was watching a video from Kirby Allen, I think his name is, on YouTube. Yeah. And he swung by our store and I was like, hey, that's Ben's store. I know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's I don't think I was there at that particular time, but yeah, I don't know Kirby personally, but we have a few really good mutual friends, so I'm sure our paths will cross one day. Yeah,
he seems like a cool guy. Yeah, that's great, man. So what have been some of your favorite moments just working there at Drake's?
Like, I don't know. It's obviously like opening the Savile Row store was pretty special.
Yeah.
I'd been reading about that street since I was a kid.
Right.
It was like the kind of place when I used to come and visit London, I'd just walk down it, just to kind of try and soak it up. So, to be like the guy that opened that door on that first day of the shop was, that was a pretty special feeling. Yeah, that was a good one.
Wow. Yeah. That's so good, man.
But like, it's always nice, when you get to help someone,
mm-hmm.
If you help someone put together like an outfit or if somebody leaves feeling good.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Yeah, man. I totally get that.
That's all I get that from.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've spoken to a few guys doing these interviews, and it's been so cool. One of the things that we all just have in common is just how amazing it is when you put that jacket on somebody and you can just see their physical appearance kind of like change. You can see their like shoulders and chest get bigger, and you just see the confidence.
Yeah, or if somebody like wears something out.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just going to wear this out. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've done my job.
Yeah, that's so great, man. Well, I know from looking at your Instagram that you're just really into like Sopranos and the whole mobster culture and style. Can you like just kind of speak on that and like why you're such a huge fan? That I am too, by the way. And I just wanted to.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. It's something I somewhat struggle with, like my appreciation of it, because I don't want to glorify or big up the things that these men did or the portrayal of the things they did. And I've kind of been thinking about this a lot recently. Why have I got this attraction to these characters? Because I love Jiu-Jitsu, I love MMA, I love boxing, but I hate violence.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. I feel the same way too.
You know what I mean? It's like within the confines of sport, two people agreeing, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But like really hurting people is not something I'm into whatsoever. But I think the thing is I really appreciate tailoring, and I really love the suit and the overcoat and the shirt and the tie. And I'm also very working class. I come from a really working class background. I come from a town there's like a port town that makes copper plate. You know, my dad worked in like coal mines and railways before becoming an engineer. And, you know, by doing that, you can't, I have friends whose point of references when it comes to tailoring are like royalty, you know, and like Princess Michael of Kent and people like that who dressed amazingly. But that's not my world. I didn't meet people like that, you know? And I'm not saying like I met mafia guys, but like I met guys who were a little, you know, a little bit off the straight and narrow. And, you know, I think that's why there's that kind of appeal, because it's a love of the clothing, but it's almost like you can relate to those people perhaps a little bit better than you could anyone regal or, you know, say, for example, like a bank manager or an investment guy. You know, those when you're growing up in that scenario, you can't really relate to those guys, but you can kind of relate to the, you know, the criminal guy who's trying to get that edge up in the world.
Yeah.
You know, albeit by very dubious means. So that's what I think it is. I might be wrong. I might just, I don't know. Who knows why we find these things interesting? Or maybe I've got a dark side I don't know about.
No, I think it's really well said. It's the same for me. Like I think it's almost goes without saying that we don't condone any of the violence or anything like that, but just the lifestyle that they portrayed and the confidence and the just incredibly high class suits is like what really attracts me to it, you know?
Yeah. And that's always been my thing with tailoring, is that I've always wanted to look more like that than kind of anything else.
Yeah.
You know, the only other real, you know, there's a few people, obviously, like Agnelli, Aristotle, and Onassis, who I've kind of looked at and love their style and everything, you know. But yeah, those old gangster pictures, I'm like, yeah, that looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And you know, look at the topic we're discussing today, which is like mental health. The Sopranos probably did more for men seeking help with these issues than anything ever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the fact that you have this like big, badass, tough guy, like in Tony Soprano, who has to go to a psychiatrist for his problems, that opened up the world to so many people. And I kind of mentioned this recently. I did a little talk on Handcut Radio Live. And I spoke about a friend of mine called Big Mike Edwards, who is like a mountain of a man, like a pro MMA fighter, and like one of the pioneers of Welsh MMA. And you know, if you saw a picture of him, you'd just go like, "Man, here's a guy who's like fearless." And I listened to a podcast with him recently where he was so open about his mental health issues, and like, you know, he really now campaigns for it, and is, you know, was basically kind of saying that like, you know, a psychiatrist, a medication has saved his life. And you know, it's amazing when I think these kind of people come forward with that, because it shows that there isn't a stigma to anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to meet that guy.
Man, amazing guy. He has a fantastic side control framing escape system. That's, you know, absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Oh, now I definitely gotta check it out.
Yeah, but big Mike Edwards, man, an absolute legend, and you know, really good guy.
Yeah, that sounds so great, man. I always say that too. I really think that seeing our therapist and stuff with my wife and I has really changed both of our lives and saved mine for sure, at least. But it's
fantastic.
It's it's a big thing, man, and that's so cool. I just had this thought is one of the things that I really like about the whole kind of mobster era too is that the only person that these guys trusted with their problems, whether it was marital or like job or whatever, was their tailors. Like they were the tailors were the confidants, you know?
Yeah. I think you know, there's probably other careers as well. I think barbers.
Yeah, barbers too, sure.
Bartenders. It's funny the people you feel you can trust.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is sometimes easier to talk to a stranger. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you feel like you don't want to put your problems on your best friend or something like that. You feel like you don't want to somewhat impose. And, it's odd that sometimes you just find yourself going like, oh my God, I can't believe I told this stranger, like how I'm feeling, where I sit down with my closest friend and I can't mention it.
Yeah. Oh man. So, no, yeah, I fully get it. And that's kind of how I decided to live my life too recently was, man, I'll just be transparent with anyone as long as you're willing to like have a conversation with me about it. I don't care what topic we cover. Like I'll tell you my feelings on whatever, and it's
totally, it's it's like it's one of those things, but I think it's good. I think a relationship with one's tailor, it should be one of trust.
Yep.
You've got to trust them that they're going to make the right decisions for you. And I think that's fine. That opens up to people trusting you with other things. And I'm very lucky that some of my clients have become really good friends.
That's so cool.
I have a lot of regular clients who I really look forward to seeing in the shop. And, a few of those we socialize outside of the shop and have become, genuinely great friends as well. So I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've met so many amazing people just like yourself that I feel honored to call a friend or at least say, hey, I know that guy and he's a great guy. And it's been such a great experience, man. Absolutely. Yeah.
And one thing I really like about menswear is that it feels a lot more like a community. I felt in other industries I've worked in, there was always kind of like a little bit of like negativity between, like, say, different shops. I'm not talking about any industry in particular, but I mean tattooing. There'd be like, the guys in that shop, the guys in that shop, and this, that. And I can honestly say, like, around the London menswear scene, everyone gets on. We all hang out, we all like meet at events. There's no like, I don't talk to those guys from blah blah blah. It's like everyone's got time for everyone, and everyone's super polite, and everyone's like friendly, and everyone since I've moved to London has been so welcoming and so friendly. It's a really wonderful thing.
Yeah, that's so great. I've actually had that same question too, because this is I think my 5th interview. So I've interviewed a few other owners of like custom suit shops, and like everyone's in the menswear space. And a few people have already asked me like, hey, aren't these guys like competitors? Like, why are you interviewing them? I'm like, absolutely not. They're not competitors. We're all trying to just make people feel better through clothing. And it's like an amazing experience, and everybody has their own like way to design it. And we're all,
it's like, if you think of Savile Row, like, look how many houses you have. You've literally got like all the best, so really some of the like the best in the world all next to each other, and everyone looks out for one another. It's like if somebody comes in to my shop and asks for something that we don't have, and say, for example, I don't know, like Richard Anderson have got it, I'll say, hey, have you popped a couple of doors up and have a look in Richard Anderson? They might be able to help you, or go to Anderson and Shepherd or Richard James or whatever, and I know they do the same. They'll say to their customers, look, we don't have this, but go into Drake's, or like, it's a much nicer way of doing business.
Yeah, it's just like you said, it's a community, and that's so cool. And that kind of leads me into my next question too, is one of the things that we try and do is help people find their style and help where they fit in the best, because it's not something that's taught anymore. It's something that I always talk about is we kind of lost the art, at least in America here, of when fathers would take their sons to their tailors and they'd be like, this is how you dress. And this is how.
Hey, so I have a whole thing about this.
Yes. Tell me about it.
Now, some of this I have stolen from the film director Guy Ritchie.
I love Guy Ritchie.
He was, I don't know if you saw him on the Joe Rogan podcast.
No, I didn't.
This was like a few years ago. And he said this, which I really agree with. He said, I'm a part of a generation that had the suit taken away from us.
Mm.
He was like, the generation before, our father's generation would always wear a suit. Their father would take them to their tailor, and there was this like ongoingness. But somewhere around the 60s, 70s, the suit changed from something that you were proud to put on to this thing that was almost like a shackle. It was like, I've got to put a suit on to go to work. I've got to put a suit on to go to this. It became like a negative, something you had to do rather than something you wanted to do. And he brings up a really great thing, which is the thing that changes it is the pocket square. He was like, you put a suit on and you put a pocket square that you like in with it, and suddenly you are wearing the suit. The suit is not wearing you. You know, that little accessory, and it could be something else to you. It could be like a tie pin or anything, or like the way you tie your tie. That just makes it that little bit personal and that little bit yours. In Drake's, we have a very particular way of tying our ties. You know, we always have a center dimple, and we have the thinner blade longer than the thicker blade. You know, and it just adds that little bit of character to it and makes it your own and makes it a little bit different. You know, we're also very well known for wearing button-down shirts without the buttons being done. And, you know, these little nuances, I think, are really what makes it. You know, but I really think there's a bit of, obviously we had the whole hashtag menswear movement, and I think a lot more people are really interested now in tailoring. And I'm glad that it's making a resurgence.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I fully agree with that. So my question to you would be like, how, if someone was like, I have no idea, I'm brand new to the menswear world, I just know I want to feel good about myself. Like, how would you start them on that journey?
Well, I think you have to kind of cover the basics, you know, and I think a nice navy suit, you know, personally, I prefer a more Neapolitan style, like an unstructured jacket. I find them a lot more comfortable to wear. And I find that people who then try an unstructured jacket, it's good if they've not worn a suit before, you know, there's no padding in the shoulder. It doesn't feel like it's holding you down. You know, it just feels a lot more comfortable. So that's kind of where I'd start. I think you do, it's a bit of a cliche, but you do need that navy suit, and you do maybe need that grey suit. And then once you've got the basics down, then we can start having some fun. You know? Yeah,
that's exactly where I tell everybody to start too. It's really good. One of the styles that I always suggest to everybody is the unstructured shoulder, just because you can dress it up or down so easily and it's so comfortable.
It's just comfortable. You know, I've got not many, but I've got a couple of bespoke suits that do not feel anywhere near as comfortable as my Drake's suits.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just that, it's literally that unstructured shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I've been really enjoying the unstructured and unlined as well. I know that I see more of that these days too.
Well, we at Drake's, we don't do any lining at all. Everything's unstructured and unlined. And I just find it for me, you know, it just hangs a little different and feels great. But that's not taken away from the more traditional British super structured suit either. You know, like I love that. And I see it every day on people and I go, wow, that looks amazing. So I'm not taking anything away from, but just a personal preference for me is the unstructured, more Italian looking suit.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Probably comes back to the mafioso wannabe.
Hey, man. Well, either way, I think the Italians definitely know how to live. They live in style and comfort all the time.
Without a doubt, it's one of my favorite places in the world.
Oh man,
it really is.
I honestly have never been. I can't wait to visit.
It's wonderful. We're lucky here that we're so close that, you know, we can. The flight is about an hour. You know, from here to like Milan is way less than 2 hours. You know,
that's so cool.
From here to like, yeah, you can pretty much get from here to anywhere in Italy within 2 hours. So it's wow. It's a fantastic place.
That's so cool.
I can't wait to get back there.
Yeah, man. How is it living in London? Just sorry, this is not an interview question. My family and I are actually looking to move, and like we have no idea where. We just know we're probably going to move.
Yeah, like, you know, London, like, you know, like any big city can be tough. You know, it's not the cheapest place in the world, I can tell you that. But yeah, me and my wife are like really, really happy here. You know, we won't stay here forever, but we're pretty happy. You know,
that's cool.
There's you know, there's always normally, unless there's some coronavirus going around, there's normally lots to do and like great restaurants and amazing museums and loads of good music. But yeah, it's a fantastic city, man. Like, you know, like London and New York are probably like the only two places in the world that I think I could live like forever. You know, for like a long period of time. Yeah. So it's a great city.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah. Well, so when you're putting on one of your suits or your drakes, or just say like your favorite suit, have you noticed like that your confidence goes up and you can like take on more problems? Like, have you had any personal experience with that?
You know, for me, it's a part of the suit, but for me, it's the tie.
Oh, okay.
So, and this is like every day. You know, you wake up in the morning and, you know, you're maybe a little bit tired or you don't know how you're going to face the day. And, you know, I put my clothes on and then I put that tie on. And as I tighten it, gets me ready to face the day. It's a powerful thing.
I'm going to have to talk to you more about that because I never feel like comfortable wearing ties. But I always love them, and I have probably like 30 of them. But I just rarely ever wear them, and I think it might just be a few things, but I always love them and admire them and love seeing them on other people. And I'm always like, man, I wish I could just be like confident in my tie, you know?
Well, mate, for me, you know, like I work in this industry. I work in the center of Mayfair, and I always try to soften my look.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a big dude with tattooed hands. You know? So I always try to be as smart as I possibly can. You know, so I make sure my shoes are shined. You know, I always wear a tie when we're not on lockdown. And
yep.
Yeah, it definitely helps like flick a switch in my head to just be ready for the day ahead.
Yeah. Definitely.
I think in anything, I think if you're wearing any items of clothing that make you feel good, or that, you know, if you look in the mirror and you go, yeah, that's great. And that could be anything. That could be like tailoring. To someone else, that might be like, I don't know, like a Supreme hoodie or, you know, like a Nike tracksuit, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Clothing definitely has the ability to up your state of mind, you know, make you feel better. And to an extent, it is like an armor that can help you, you know, get through things without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, that's so great that you say that, because that's something that I say to people all the time too. It's just like, it's like putting on a modern day suit of armor that just helps you go into battle, no matter what that battle looks like. For me, whether it was personal or for everyone, you know, whether it's like a business thing or whatever.
Yeah, and to other people, it can be something else. You know, I've got friends could not care less about clothes. You know, really couldn't care less about it. But, you know, they all have their vices and they all have their things that make them excited. You know, from, you know, jiu-jitsu to, you know, I know guys who only care about jiu-jitsu. You know, on their days off, they're wearing like flip-flops, board shorts, and like, you know, like MMA related t-shirts. You know, I've got one of my oldest and best friends, Morgan. He will wear like the cheapest clothes he can find. You know, he'll wear like a black tracksuit, you know, like a black hoodie, black tracksuit bottoms, the cheapest trainers he can find because he just doesn't care. But then that dude, he loves Star Wars figures. We've all got our little vices and things that make us feel good, you know, and man, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a really, you know, it's nice to have these things that give us a little bit of pleasure and make us feel a little bit better about ourselves. Yeah,
totally. And it can be whatever, as long as it's something that makes you feel good. That's what, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. As long as you're not hurting anyone or doing anything like you know, wrong, it's all good.
Yeah.
I think, you know, as we're all guys in this menswear world and dressing and looking good is important to us, I think we have to remember to not look down on people who don't.
Yeah, you know, it's like, that's a great point. Yeah.
You know, I know they say clothes make gift the man and all that, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's a personal preference. And, you know, if people aren't into it or, you know, or like somebody comes in and maybe asks like in the shop and asks like a question that we might perceive as not very knowledgeable, but, you know, doesn't mean it's not a decent question to that person. So, you know, try to like, you know, I guess it's old school, isn't it? Just treat everyone with respect.
Yeah, totally. And no, that's what I love too. And that's been something that I've experienced in the community already, is just as I'm trying to gain more knowledge and like find the history behind things and just really research. Like I ask probably a lot of questions that are unknowledgeable, but that's how you gain knowledge. You know, you just gotta do it. And the great thing about the community is everyone's so open about it. It always,
but it's only a stupid question if you know the answer.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, man, there's so much I don't know, you know, and especially when I started at Drake's, man, I was winging it, you know, the whole way. And I've learned a lot, but there's still so much more for me to learn. You know, you never stop learning.
No, never. And what I think it's so cool that I've noticed too is just what I think people are just so excited to talk about menswear that are already in the community that they just get genuinely excited that someone's like interested, you know?
Oh, man, you know, it's like somebody walks into Drake's and they're excited about the brand. It's like, well, I'm excited to work for the brand.
Yeah.
You know, and I love what we produce. And, you know, it's like, oh, you're into something, I'm into something. Brilliant. You know, I can sit down and talk hours about this stuff, you know.
Man, and we should sometime because I would love to.
Yeah. Other topics, you know, jiu-jitsu, MMA, hardcore, I've got equally as much useless knowledge.
That's so great. Yeah, man. So from I guess not to take too much of your time, but just from a wider perspective, how do you think menswear helps mental health just for the average man?
You know, I it's a bit of a cliche, but it is that look good, feel good, isn't it? You know, I think the mirror, especially when you're feeling down, can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Yeah. You know, because if you can look in that mirror and go, I look good today, well, that's a positive thing. And that positive thought can maybe lead you on to another positive thought, you know, because mental health issues, things that we all deal with on a daily basis, like stress, anxiety, depression, it often starts from like a seed. You know, it's that one thing that if you start, do you know what I mean? It's like if you start negative, it rolls and gets bigger and bigger till it's all encompassing. So if we can somehow do the opposite, or even if that's like the one thing that day that makes you feel good, is that looking at your suit in the mirror and going, oh, that's a great suit. You know, then it's anything that's a positive is got to be great. Even there's a great video on YouTube about a guy who's talking about the importance of making your bed.
Yeah.
It's saying, have you seen that? It's like,
I think so. It's the morning routine one.
Yeah, where it's like, if you make your bed, you have achieved something before you've walked out of your bedroom.
You're right.
It's like that concept of like, even if you have like the worst day ever, you get to come home to like something that you've achieved. And, I think it's a very same mentality. It's like looking good, feeling good. It can be the catalyst to a progression, because I think it often in these times, you do need that one thing to make you feel a bit better.
Yeah, 100% agree, especially these days.
Yeah. And I've tried, I'll be honest, during, we've been on like lockdown for about 3 months plus now here in London. And I've not worn a lot of tailoring, but I have made sure that at least once or twice a week I do.
Yeah.
So it might be like, I'm going down to get groceries or something. I'll put on a suit just to like have that feeling and not lose my connection to it. But I've also been wearing a lot of pajamas and tracksuits.
No, that's so great, man. That's the great thing that you just said there was the intentionality piece to it. Excuse me, where that there's an intentionality of going and doing something, and you want to have that connection, as you put it. That's really great, for sure.
Because, with mental health, obviously there's varying scales. There is obviously there's cases where what you need is therapy, and in some cases medication and things like that. But then there are things that we all deal with, like anxiety, depression, stress. And those little things can make a big difference in that.
Yep.
It's like I've had friends in the past. I wouldn't name any names, but I had a friend in the past who had split up with someone and was feeling awful, and had a year of feeling miserable. And we took him out on tour with my old band. And like a few days in, he was like, I've just had fun. He was like, I've had fun for the past few days. I haven't had fun in like a year. I didn't think of the girl that had broken his heart, or I didn't think of the problems I had. I've just been having fun. And he continued to have fun. It's like sometimes you just need that one moment of feeling good to make you realize that you are capable of feeling good.
Wow. Yeah.
And for me, that's often been putting on a jacket and a shirt and a tie and, some nice trousers and a good pair of shoes. And, that's been the catalyst for getting out of those feelings.
Yeah. That's so great, man. Thanks for sharing all that. I really appreciate it. It's been absolutely a blast talking to you.
Yeah, and you, a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, do you want to tell everybody where they can find you on the internet or Instagram or anything, if people are interested?
Yeah. I'm Benjamin_Glyn_Phillips on Instagram. And you can follow Drake's at Drake's Diary on Instagram. Fantastic content on there. So those are probably the best places to find me.
Great, man. Well, thanks so much. And I hope we get to do this again soon.
I hope so, man. Be well.
Yeah, you as well.